Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Monday afternoon, kind of a gray one as we've got some thunderstorms that have been out in the offshore waters, but that's ended up providing us with a lot of cloud cover here locally. But showers and thunderstorms, a little better chance today, tomorrow, and Wednesday as a surge of tropical moisture kind of moves off toward the west. A lot of new stuff to talk about. As we left you on Friday, we were watching this big tropical wave coming off of the African coast, and of course, it was making a lot of waves on social media over the course of the weekend. We're also going to talk about Tropical Storm Erin, which has formed from that wave, where that might go. Still have 96L out there. Got a new contestant across the northern part of the Atlantic. So a decent amount of stuff to talk about, even a little bit of a tropical wave or an inverted trough over the Gulf that right now doesn't look like it's going to develop, but it is going to keep our rain chances a little bit more on the high side. And a little bit later on, we're going to talk about the difference of deterministic models versus the ensemble models. You see a lot of this stuff on social media, and a lot of folks don't really know what they're looking at. But a lot of times you see those big spaghetti plots where there's, lines going all over the place. Your first instinct, and I get it when you see these, is, well, these models or these meteorologists don't know where any of this stuff is going to go, but going to kind of explain the difference between the two, and hopefully you'll have a little better understanding on how those different models work and how to use them when you're making your own forecast. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot of cloud cover again here in the hub city. Temperature 84, feels like 92, so it's pretty soupy out there. The dew point 75, humidity pretty high. At least there's a breeze out of the northeast at 7, pressures at 30 inches even, and it will be coming down over the next couple of days. So there's a look at our latest radar shot, and we've got some decent rains that are coming down there in Iberia Parish. Zooming that in right there from east end of New Iberia, going down just to the south of Jeanerette, and then that extends farther out into the offshore waters there. Got a little bit of light drizzle over the western side of Lafayette, and the thunderstorms that were out here over southwestern Louisiana have dissipated. So we're going to focus a little bit more of our attention a little farther to the east here. We've got some heavy downpours there along the coast of Terrebonne and Lafourche, and that pushes out into Plaquemines Parish too. Some of this is going to be lifting northward toward the capital city and New Orleans as well, but I think most of it is going to be staying south of the interstates this time around, with the exception of maybe here in Lafayette up through the Atchafalaya Basin. We might get some of that rain to work its way up into portions of St. Landry Parish. So as we take this off here, we can see that there's a lot of rain farther to the east, and that's a little bit of that tropical wave or that inverted trough that's going to work westward across the Gulf and bring us some better chances for rain tomorrow and again on Wednesday. So looking outside here in Acadiana, a lot of cloud cover out there, but at least here in Lafayette, Breaux Bridge, and over toward Henderson, Opelousas, and Alexandria, all looking like we've got some dry roadways, but we've got a lot of cloud cover out there. You might get a little drizzle there over parts of Acadia Parish as you work your way west of Scott on the I-10, but other than that, really not anything heavy right now. The bigger stuff is there over the eastern part of the Gulf, and I got to say that yesterday, as that kind of rolled off the Florida coast there, it was looking kind of interesting there west of Tampa. Heard about some torrential rains there over southwest Florida, including down over toward Fort Myers, Sanibel Island, those areas. But this is more of a trough. It's kind of an inverted trough, and what that means is the low is at the bottom and the front kind of extends to the north, and more of that energy is kind of on the northern side of the low. It's a little bit different than what you would normally see with a low that moves across the country and drags a cold front below it. So this is just kind of flipped on this. So not that much different, but just a little bit more of a flip. But there's a lot of tropical moisture over the eastern part of the Gulf, and that is going to be streaming its way westward. So get ready for some higher rain chances here as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. And because the atmosphere is going to be so moist, we're going to get back to some of those heavy afternoon downpours. And you know how that goes here in South Louisiana. You get under one of those heavy downpours. Next thing you know, you got 2-3 inches of rain. You got flooded roadways. So that is going to be a potential as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. And as far as boating, not too bad. And our friends that are out on the platforms out there in the Gulf waters, light winds today generally out of the south at about 5 to 10 knots, seas 1 to 2 feet. But always remember, winds and seas will be higher around around scattered thunderstorms. Now, Panama City is starting to get more on the backside of this system moving west, so they're actually looking at a pretty nice day there, but you can see the rain coming down in Orange Beach. You've got some gray skies offshore of Dauphin Island, and then as you go farther toward the west, those thunderstorms that were out along the upper Texas coast and southwest Louisiana, those dissipating. Some of that drier air pushing in. So for the rest of the afternoon, I think our friends over in Texas are going to be staying generally dry. So here's the big picture. We've got a new contestant out there, not just Tropical Storm Erin, but you see that little blip that's off the coast of Nova Scotia there. That has a low-end chance. I'm going to show you kind of a funky-looking satellite imagery here to kind of get an eye on that stuff that's over the northern part of the Atlantic. Don't worry, we're going to get to Erin here in just a little bit. We're going to focus more of our attention on Erin, but this is a little bit different viewpoint. Over here is New England. Over here is Ireland and England. So what we've got is we've got a low pressure area here. That's what that yellow blip was over the North Atlantic. So we got a little bit of a spin there. That might become something subtropical. By the way, this low over here, that's what's left of Dexter. You remember Dexter from last week that lost its tropical characteristics and then actually got stronger without it being a tropical system over the eastern and northeastern part of the Atlantic. So right now, this particular area just has a low-end chance for development, and we're not too concerned about that. Little tour around the rest of the Caribbean and the tropics. Central America, not bad. You've got a little low-pressure area, not really a tropical wave, more what we call a monsoonal low that's moving over the western Caribbean. That's going to bring some rains to Nicaragua, Panama, and Costa Rica. And then we got a tropical wave that's crossed its way through the Leeward and Windward Islands. Let me go ahead and mark that for you, let you know where that is. Right there. It's pretty easy to see. It's generating some showers, some thunderstorms over the islands, but it doesn't look very impressive. And then in its wake, there's a whole bunch of Saharan dust out here, which is not going to really affect what we have with Erin. I think Erin is going to kind of run behind some of that. So just to give you a perspective, we are way over here. If you can even see it there, I'll make a bigger circle. And then Erin is right there. So it is a long ways away. There's a lot of time to be able to watch that. So if you look at all three, you've got the disturbance over the North Atlantic. You got 96L that isn't looking so great and doesn't have much of a chance for development anymore. And then, of course, Erin is our newest tropical storm. So let's dig in with Erin itself. And there's a little closer view of the satellite imagery. I know it's short here, but because it's a newer system, we don't have a lot of frames on the satellite imagery just yet. And as far as the latest advisory, winds 45 miles per hour. Of course, all the details are there on the left-hand side of your screen. 17.4 north, 28 degrees west, winds 45, and the pressure right now is at 1004. We do expect this to intensify fairly quickly. I think it's going to be a tropical storm today and tomorrow. It might be a hurricane by tomorrow night, though, and the National Hurricane Center is forecasting this to be a major hurricane by the time we get to the weekend. Now, it's going to be kind of close, at least the cone is kind of close there to the northern Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and just north of Puerto Rico. But you also notice how the cone is very, very thin going out for that 7-day forecast. And that's where we're going to talk about the difference between deterministic and ensemble models and why the forecast is a little more confident. And because it's more confident, that cone is a little bit smaller there. So the intensity models are quite interesting. You can see that pretty much everything has this going up to hurricane within about 72 hours. So that's 3 days. And a good chunk of those models are taking it up to category 2, category 3, with a couple of them touching category 4. And then you got that outlier there that shoots it right up to the top of the scale. So I think that's a pretty good handle on the forecast from the National Hurricane Center that this will likely become a hurricane, if not a major hurricane, sometime over the next 5 days. So this is what we call the deterministic models. And the differences between some of the deterministic models is a deterministic model is basically making a single best guess for a forecast. So when you're looking at the GFS and the Euro and the GFDL and all these are deterministic models. So basically each one of these are all different model runs. Each one of these colors here is a different model run. And each one of them is plotting a point but it's only 1 point. So a deterministic model, the example would be like what you get on your phones where it tells you that it's going to rain at 3 p.m. It's very detailed, it's very specific, but the initial data is slightly off. So if the initial data rather is slightly off, the entire forecast can be wrong. So you think of it kind of like if you're making a recipe, if you screw up one ingredient, the whole dish is going to suffer. So it's kind of like that. If there's one thing that changes in this forecast, the final solution is going to be way, way, way off. An ensemble model, and that's what this is here. And this is where I get it. When folks see these things on social media, you see all the spaghetti, going all over the place. People are like, well, this model doesn't know where this thing is going. And that's exactly the thing here is this is only one model. It's kind of based off the GFS on this particular one, and the one that's based off the Euro looks like that. But let's just go back to this for a second and explain what an ensemble model means. It takes that same starting point, which would be right in here. There's your starting point. And then it adds some changes in the forecast, like basically it gives you different runs to see how the forecast might change. Instead of an answer, you're going to get a whole range of outcomes, like running multiple what-if scenarios. So this helps us as forecasters understand not just what might happen, but also if there's a huge difference in these lines, the confidence in the forecast starts to go down. So when you're looking at the initial here, right here, and you compare that maybe even with the National Hurricane Center's cone being so small, you see all the model runs basically just kind of run over the same area. So the confidence here for the next 5 days, 6 days, even 7 days is pretty high. And that's why we're seeing that narrow cone. But things get a lot more uncertain beyond that. And again, there are a lot of different changes that could happen between 7 and 10 days. And all of these lines will go out 10 days. And the Euro, again, is more of the same. Again, it's running the same mathematical equations, but it just tweaks a couple of different things throughout the forecast to give you a whole suite of what ifs. So this isn't a model or several models going all over the place. This is just one model, and the average is the black line that's there in the middle. But you can see there for the first 5 or 6 days until it gets to the northern part of the Caribbean, things are pretty much in agreement for several days. So that's why the forecast is a lot more confident. But then things get less confident as you go beyond 7 days and you go out to 10 days. And I'm going to tell you, as a forecaster, there's been a lot of forecasts that I've put together, and I'm very confident in the forecast, and usually we hit it. On a pretty sunny day with low humidity, that's a relatively easy forecast, and your confidence is high that your forecast is going to be right. There's been other days where I've had forecasts that I've put out, and I truly have no idea what's going to happen throughout the rest of the day. And sometimes, even on those days where I have very low confidence in the forecast, I'll get it right. And there are also some days where I have a lot of confidence in my forecast, and I'll get it wrong. It's just the way the game goes because meteorology is not as an exact science. So that's kind of what we look at there, between a deterministic model, which is just 1 point each time and one model run, versus the other ones that kind of gives you a range of what ifs. So again, our confidence is pretty high for the first 5 or 6 days, and then the confidence is pretty low going out there. It could be anywhere from Florida to the middle part of the Atlantic. The best thing, though, to look at on this one is none of these really have anything coming toward the Gulf. So at the very least here in Acadiana, it does appear that we're going to be more on the safe side with this particular system. But do remember, things can change at any time. And that's why we like to look more at this here over time. And yeah, the question down below is asking if this could possibly a Category 5. Yeah, sure. I don't see why this would not be, that wouldn't grow that strong. One model is going to Category 5. Not a lot of them are, but what we've seen over the past several years, some of the forecasts, and I'll tell you, the intensity forecast is a lot less confident than your track forecast. So yes, from the question that was there in Spanish there, if you understand in my English there, I do believe that there is a chance that this could be a very, very strong hurricane, whether it becomes Category 5 or not. And if you're down there, I want to think that maybe I've gotten these questions before from this same listener. and might be down in Puerto Rico. At this point in time, it looks like most of this is going to be staying farther to the north. And Joseph, the confidence of it impacting Massachusetts, at this point, I'm pretty confident that this is going to stay away from the U.S. East Coast based on that model there and based on that model there. And in fact, over the course of the weekend, Joseph, it does appear that the forecast trend has been farther and farther away from the U.S. East Coast. But remember, there's a lot of time between now and then, and things could change. So let's get back to the deterministic models here. We're going to start with the Euro, and you can see, if I just go ahead and circle it here real quick, we can see where Erin is on this particular model right there. And then we could just kind of follow it along here over the next several days. And just like some of what we saw with our ensemble models, you get a fairly strong hurricane bypassing the northern Virgin Islands, and then maybe curving its way. Now, again, we're going out beyond day 10 here on this. So for my friend there about asking about Massachusetts, that's actually a pretty good sign that it wouldn't be going in that particular direction. Let's go ahead and roll it back here, see what the GFS shows. And again, this is just this one solution on this one model run. And the GFS is very, very similar, takes a little bit more of a curve, and again, safely away from the U.S. coast. Canadian model runs a little bit farther to the south. It kind of gets really close there to Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and then maybe even into the Bahamas. So again, that is a scenario, but this one only goes out 10 days, and it's, at least the Canadian is showing something a little bit more unnerving than what the other two models are showing. And the Icon model, again, only goes out 7 days. So this isn't going to give us a lot of information except for if it's going to come close to the northeastern part of the Caribbean Sea there. And at this point, it looks like the Icon model is also showing a less confidence that it's going to be there. And Miss Priscilla, an outlier model has ever been the one that holds that's true? Yeah, sometimes it does, but it's very rare 10, 14 days out for an outlier to be the one. And that's why we kind of look at kind of the cluster of where all of those lines are. So again, you're going to have outlying models, different model runs, but like the ensemble models that I was showing you here, Priscilla, this is running the same mathematical equation, the same model over and over and over again. It just throws in some what ifs. So that's why you get that little bit of a spread on both the Euro and the GFS. So I hope you understand the difference between the two. And both of them are great tools. And the more tools you have, the better a forecaster you will become. So one of the things I also wanted to point out here real quick, and also for my friends that may be out in the Caribbean, down in Puerto Rico, this has got a lot of time before it would ever impact you. So if you live in the northeastern part of the Caribbean, we're still looking at about 6 to 7 days. This is actually moving at a pretty good clip, so you might be able to take a day difference. But if you see Puerto Rico here, that's in that 6 to 8 day range, and Louisiana here, you're talking about from Louisiana, where let's say Erin is here, you're talking about maybe 12 to 14 days away. So that's why after 10 days, we're talking about maybe something here. But if it were to come into the Gulf, it's going to be a good 13, 14 days before it would make its way to the northern part of the Gulf Coast. The other thing is the water temperatures and where this system will be going. There's a good possibility if it gets into this particular area here north of the Caribbean, it can get into those very, very warm waters. And there's also some fairly high heat content in that region there. So that's part of the reason why maybe some of the forecasts are going high with a major hurricane, but there's not a whole lot that's going to be inhibiting it as well. There's the wind shear right now, and you can see that it's kind of in a slightly high wind shear environment, but west of it, it's a very low wind shear environment. And by the time we get to the weekend, again, this is just one model solution, but it would have it northeast of the Caribbean Sea, but still kind of in a high wind shear environment, but rolling westward in tandem with lower wind shear. So there's where the forecast goes in on the intensity If it stays with a lot of shear, it's not going to intensify as quickly. If it gets into a low wind shear environment, then it can ramp up really fast and you've got a major hurricane before you know it. And there's a lot of Saharan dust that's still out there, but right now it's kind of around what is considered Tropical Storm Erin. And I think that dust is also going to roll westward in tandem. So if it can stay away from some of that dry air as well as some of that Saharan dust, we might actually see that being influenced by that. So that would be the only thing. The wind shear and the Saharan dust is really the only thing that's going to inhibit any strengthening here over the next several days. So at this point, I'm not expecting Erin to come into the Gulf, and really some of the following low pressure areas that are there as well don't look like they're going to be making. It looks like that ridge of high pressure that's over the eastern Atlantic is going to stay strong, which would tend to curve things back to the north and around that, keeping it away, not just from the Gulf, but also the U.S. East Coast. But again, things do change, day to day, week to week. So hopefully we're going to be seeing all of this stuff staying out in the Atlantic and not bother anyone. Of course, the frequency of all that is going to be increasing rapidly. We are about halfway through the month of August now. The peak of the hurricane season is generally considered on September the 10th. So we are less than a month away from the peak of the season, but we really can't let our guard down until at least halfway through October. And if our season ends up anything like 2024, we're going to be going well into November, because we had a couple of very strong hurricanes develop in November over the southern Gulf, and they do tend to move their way from west to east rather than east to west when you get into the latter part of the hurricane season. So because we're only a month out from the peak of the hurricane season, hopefully everybody has gotten this list done. I've been throwing this out here now for a few months of be hurricane ready and what you can do right now. All this stuff that's on the list, you can get these at the stores. You probably have a lot of this still in your house, either from last year's hurricane season, or maybe you still have it from the winter storm we had back in January. But these are all things that you can do right now and get it all ready to go. And then that's just a whole bunch of steps that you won't have to do if we eventually end up in the crosshairs of a tropical system. Well, I hope you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics. If you do like this video, subscribe to my channel and also turn on those notifications. And remember, you can hear my daily forecasts on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And in between, for any updates on any tropical weather, you can check my social media pages, both on Facebook and X. And of course, thanks to everyone who subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. I hope to see y'all for Acadiana Weather Today. That's my morning show at 7 o'clock. Just a quick weather forecast, giving you an update on how your weather is going to affect your day. And then, of course, every day at noon, we do Let's Talk Tropics live right here on Acadiana Weather Today. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I hope to see you on Tuesday morning. Have a good one.